الله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear respected guests, I was asked to talk about the topic of scientific development is tightly bound to revelation. And this is really a book review. And it's a book review of a primer for every Ahmadi Muslim student of science. And I actually have it with me. It is this book, Revelation, Rationality, Knowledge and Truth, which was written by Hazrat Khidr al-Masih IV, Ayyadallahu ta'ala bin Ashil Aziz. What I'd like to do just in the next few minutes, I'm going to cut down my time because I know we're running a few minutes behind and it would be nice to have a chance for a panel discussion, is just give you a brief overview about this book. And I think it really does represent the title, which is that Revelation actually spurns or guides or progresses, allows leaps and bounds within human development, including scientific development. And that is the overriding theme. The first part of the book is about one of what I would categorize, and I'm not sure if this is, just from reading the book, this is what I gleaned. There were three major types of revelation that were mentioned. One, and in the first part of the book, the first one is about the prophets of God. And the prophets of God bring revelation, guidance to a community, and they advance human civilization, and what follows is a large amount for that time and area of scientific development. And what Huzur mentions in his book are several examples. Some of those prophets are mentioned in the Holy Quran, but others are left up to us to discover. And Huzur mentions the Greeks, for example, and shows that by examining the Greek philosopher Socrates over other philosophers, that he must have been a prophet of God because of his stance on the unity of God and the wisdom that he brought. And then within Hinduism, about Krishna being a prophet of God, about Buddha and how Buddha was a prophet of God because of the early inscriptions that can be found about him, and then similarly about Zoroaster, even in various tribes, and there's a chapter on the Aborigines of Australia. And so that very first part of Revelation that's tightly bound to our development as a people is through those prophets of God. I would say the second hallmark of Revelation that allows us to progress is one that's a lesser form of revelation. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that dreams carry the weight of about 1/40 of a revelation. And so dreams and visions. And while believers receive a large amount of dreams and visions in much higher proportion, even non-believers are given by the grace of God the chance to witness this. And as Allah Ta'ala deems it necessary for a certain time and place, they too partake in this in order to advance mankind. And what's mentioned in this book is really interesting, are several examples of how dreams propelled modern civilization. And I'd just like to share with you two examples. And one is about Frederick Cooley, who is the founding father of organic chemistry. And Huzur mentions in his book that one night in 1865, German chemist Frederick Cooley, while struggling to solve a problem in chemistry about the structure of the molecule benzene, dreamt that he saw a snake with its tail held in its mouth. The dream instantly revealed to him the secret of the molecule, which is that the molecule forms a circular ring. And he correctly interpreted the dream to mean that in that benzene molecule there was a ring structure consisting of those carbon atoms. And who would argue that the discovery of the benzene ring is one of the most fundamental discoveries in organic chemistry and based on a dream? The second example, among the examples that are given in this book, is that of an American engineer, Elias Howe Jr., who patented the sewing machine. And Huzur writes that his original idea, which failed, was to follow the model of the ordinary needle. And the ordinary needle, as you know, has an eye that's at the end, and you use it to sew. Well, it never occurred to him to place that needle in the eye of the needle in the front of the needle, until he had a dream. He dreamt that he saw himself surrounded by savages who threatened to kill him unless he designed a sewing machine. Being unable to follow through with the charge, he was tied to a tree in this dream, and the savages began attacking him with arrows and spears. Well, it just so happened that one of the spears had an eyelet, or a hole in the front of the spear rather than the back of the spear. And on awakening from his dream, he immediately understood that he should consider placing the eye of the needle near the point rather than the heel. And what's mentioned is that he jumped out of bed at 4 in the morning, like every good scientist, and by 9 a.m. a crude prototype was developed. And today, every piece of clothing we bears the imprint of Elias Howe's dream. And so that's the second type of revelation. But I'd like to share with you, from this book, the third hallmark of revelation that has propelled human civilization and that is slated to propel human civilization far beyond what we can even imagine. And that is the revelation given in the Holy Quran. And what I'd like to end with is the point that Huzur makes. Which is that certainly the Holy Quran is in harmony with science. And Huzur gives examples from this book about the Big Bang and the expanding universe, the evolution of life, and how Allah Ta'ala mentions these points in such an interesting, very distinct way that it leaves us with a strong feeling that it is in consonance with those theories. But secondly, and perhaps more importantly, the Holy Quran provides guidance to pose as well as to answer those questions that are still unanswered. And some of the points that were raised in this book are about extraterrestrial life. We don't really know whether it exists, but what does the Holy Quran have to say? And Huzur points to this. What about the nature of photosynthesis? How does photosynthesis actually work? What about chirality or sightedness? There's a chapter, and Dr. Hamid Mirza in the next session will elucidate upon this, as well as other points. So in summary, I highly recommend this book to every student of science because this is a primer for us to delve into the Holy Quran and to understand how that form of revelation and other forms that we can witness by Allah Ta'ala's grace, such as dreams and visions, and through the prophets of God, can tightly move us forward in scientific development. So, Jazakallah.